Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, The Status Quo, Chapter 5, Vidura's Talks with Maitreya, Text 46. Text 46. Panena te deva kata sudhaya pravrita bhaktya vishadashayaye vairagya saram pratilabhya bodham yatanja sanviyorakunta dishnyam panena te deva kata sudhaya pravrita bhaktya vishadashayaye vairagya saram pratilabhya bodham yatanja sanviyorakunta dishnyam panena te deva kata sudhaya pravrita bhaktya vidadashaya ye vairagya saram pratilabhya bodham yatanja sanviyorakunta dishnyam. Everyone chant, please.
पानेन ते देवकथा सुधाया प्रवृद्धभक्त्या विशदासयाये वैराग्यसारं प्रतिलभ्य बोधं यथाञ्जसान्वीयुरकुण्ठधिष्ण्यम्।
हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna.
पानेन ते देवा कथाबुद्धया प्रवृद्धभक्ताया विशदाय शाये वैराग्यसारं प्रतिलब्धबोधं यथा अंजस्भियुरकुण्ठदिशम्। हरे कृष्ण।
पानेन ते देवकथा सुधाय प्रवर्ध भक्त्या विशदाशयाये वैराग्यसारं प्रतिलभ्य बोधं यतञ्जसन्वीर् अकुन्तदिष्ण्यम्।
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
पानेन देवा कथासुधाया पवित्रभक्त्या विशदासयाति वैराग्यसारं प्रतिलभ्य बोधं यातं जसानुयुयुरकुण्ठदिष्ण्यम्।
हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna.
पानेन ते देवकथा सुधाया प्रवृद्ध्या भक्त्या विशदासयाये वैराग्यसारं प्रतिलभ्य बोधं यथाञ्जसान्वियोरकुण्ठदिष्णयाम्। हरे कृष्ण। Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, very good. Word for word translation. Panena, by drinking. Te, of you. Deva, O Lord. Kata, topics. Sudhaya, of the nectar. Pravridha, highly enlightened. Bhaktya, by devotional service. Vishada ashaya, with a greatly serious attitude. Yea, those who, vairagyasaram, the entire purport of renunciation. I love that translation, the entire purport of renunciation. Pratilabhya, achieving. Bodham, intelligence. Yata, as much as anjasa, quickly, anviyu, achieve, akuntadishnyam, Vaikuntha Loka, in the spiritual sky. Translation: O Lord, persons who, because of their serious attitude, attain the stage of enlightened devotional service, achieve the complete meaning of renunciation and knowledge, and attain the Vaikuntha Loka in the spiritual sky simply by drinking the nectar of your topics. Purport: the difference between the impersonalistic mental speculators and the pure devotees of the Lord is that the former pass through a miserable understanding of the absolute truth at every stage, whereas the devotees enter into the kingdom of all pleasures even from the beginning of their attempt. The devotee has only to hear about devotional activities, which are as simple as anything in ordinary life, and he also acts very simply, whereas the mental speculator has to pass through a jugglery of words, which are partially facts and partially a make show for the maintenance of an artificial, impersonal status. In spite of his strenuous efforts to attain perfect knowledge, the impersonalist attains merging into the impersonal oneness of the Brahmajyoti of the Lord, which is also attained by the enemies of the Lord simply because of their being killed by him. The devotees, however, attain to the highest stage of knowledge and renunciation and achieve the Vaikuntha Lokas, the planets in the spiritual sky. The impersonalist attains only the sky and does not achieve any tangible transcendental bliss, whereas the devotee attains to the planets where real spiritual life prevails. With a serious attitude, the devotee throws away all achievements like so much dust, and he accepts only devotional service, the transcendental culmination. What an amazing purport. Translation again, or verse again. Panena te deva kata sudaya pravrida bhaktya vidadashaya ye vairagya saram pratilabhya bodham yatanja samviyora kuntadishnyam. O Lord, persons who, because of their serious attitude, attain the stage of enlightened devotional service, achieve the complete meaning of renunciation and knowledge, and attain the Vaikuntha Loka in the spiritual sky simply by drinking the nectar of your topics. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachayane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. This is quite an amazing verse and purport, I thought. And I also feel like this is giving me a chance to make amends for my last class. Last class, I don't know how many were here remember, we were talking about the Mahatattva and how the gross elements comes from subtle, and then at the stage of liberation, that progression is reversed from gross down to subtle, and then to the Mahatattva, and then to liberation and transcendence. And while I more or less stand by the analysis I gave, as devotees, we want to hear about directly how we can serve Krishna. It's important to understand these things, creation and liberation and such. But in today's verse, now we have a chance to very directly hear about and discuss and hopefully become enlivened about the actual process of devotional service. Let's see, today's Thursday. In Tuesday's class, I think it was Revati gave class. She very nicely pointed out how her verse, this verse, and the next verse, what they cover. That Tuesday's verse discussed the insufficiency of materialistic pursuits. And today's verse is about the sufficiency and the efficacy and the usefulness of the pursuit of perfection through devotional service. And then tomorrow's verse is discussing the insufficiency of the process of jnana and mental speculation and meditation and such. So she pointed that out very nicely. So it's so nice, this verse directly praising the process of devotional service. And in the purport, Prabhupada hits it home by jumping ahead, in a sense, to tomorrow's verse and talking about the insufficiency of these impersonalist meditators. How they simply, could you call up the purport again, please? Is that, or actually, maybe easier, I have my book here. What does Prabhupada say? In spite of his strenuous efforts to attain perfect knowledge, the impersonalist attains merging into the impersonal oneness of the Brahmajyoti, which is also attained by the enemies of the Lord. So Prabhupada is really hitting it home, like I said in the last verse, the insufficiency of materialistic life, and here the insufficiency of impersonal meditation. Neither of them actually, materialism and impersonalism, although in one sense they seem very different, in one sense they're the same thing. They're both based on selfish, individualistic desires, and they're both insufficient because they cannot give a real benefit and they cannot give an eternal benefit. This is the dual flaw of both materialistic life and impersonal liberation. In materialistic life, we know Abrahma bhuvana loka punaravartana. If you remain in the material world, no matter how elevated you go, you'll fall down again. And, if you read Mahabharata stories of so many sages and kings and they do austerities and get elevated, then their piety runs out and they fall back down again. Or some yogi or the yogis also, they make so much advancement in meditation and then they set up some offense and they fall down again. So this is the fault of this type of thing. And what's the result? Prabhupada says simply strenuous effort in today's purport. What's that strenuous effort? That's also described in Bhagavad Gita, the impersonalistic process, that kleshadi karas tesham avyakta shakta chetasam, that this trying to meditate on and pursue the impersonal aspect of the absolute truth, kleshadi kataras, very, very troublesome, simply hard work. Avyaktahi gatir to dukam. It's very difficult and very troublesome for the embodied being to pursue the impersonal realization. Therefore, we don't pursue that. Or the other, even more pointed example is in the Bhagavatam, Yenye Ravindaksha. And this is what Prabhupada is referring to when he's speaking about how they very troublesome. They take very troublesome method of pursuing impersonal realization. This is Yenye Ravindaksha Vimukta Manina, Twayasta Bhava Avishuddha Buddhaya, Aruya Kritrena, with great austerities and great troubles and great difficulty. They pursue the absolute truth. Aruya Kritrena, Padam Padam Tata, Patantyado Najata Yusmarangriya. But because Anajata Yusmara Angriya, because these persons in their search for impersonalism, because by definition, if they're impersonal, that means they're neglecting the lotus feet of Krishna. And if they're neglecting the lotus feet of Krishna, then vimukta manina, any sense of mukti they think they develop is simply manina, simply a mental concoction within their mind. They think, oh, I'm liberated, but they're not actually liberated because they're neglecting Krishna's lotus feet. Twayasta bhava avishuddha buddhaya, because their consciousness is contaminated. This impersonalist meditation is supposedly the process of jnana. Jnana means knowledge. But if by that impersonal so-called knowledge, the result is avashuddha buddhaya, that your knowledge is contaminated, then what kind of jnana is that? It's not actually jnana. It's avashuddha buddhaya. It's a contaminated pseudo-intelligence, pseudo-intellectualism that, oh, I'm pursuing the impersonalist truth. And you may think, oh, well, it's false, it's contaminated, but at least I get some impersonal liberation. But no, that also is denied. Patantito najite yusmaragra. Patanti means you will fall again from that sense of imagined impersonal superiority. You must fall from it because it's not a permanent status. It's not compatible with the constitutional position and nature of the soul. Prabhupada said he was once walking in Mayapur and he was talking, I can't remember all the details, but they were going on a morning walk in Mayapur. And at that time, the land was very undeveloped, just rice fields and open fields all around, and very quiet and very peaceful. And he were walking through the fields and he was saying, oh, people come from Kolkata, and they come here and they like, and oh, it's so quiet, it's so peaceful. But after some time there, they think, oh, they get bored, they get tired of the quiet. Oh, I want to go back to Calcutta. So this is the impersonalists. They may think, oh, I want impersonal, deny everything. But because it's not compatible with the nature of the spirit soul, they get bored, they get lonely, and again, they go back down. They fall back down to the material level. So both jnana and karma, the process of materialism, advancement through materialism, and advancement through impersonal liberation are both doomed to failure. And in today's verse, we hear, and why is this? Again, because they have no regard for Krishna's lotus feet. Therefore, the superiority, the imagined superiority they gain is false. For example, the materialists who gain opulence or Janmaishwarya Shruta Shri, they attain all these things, or even elevation up to the heavenly planets, but it's not actually satisfying. That's the first thing, is that those things are not actually satisfying, and neither is impersonal liberation. Prabhupada was once having a conversation with his devotees, and as he would occasionally do, they were having a mock argument. And the devotee was arguing, oh, but you say there's no happiness, but everyone says there's happiness in this material world. And Prabhupada says, no, there's no happiness in this material world, no real happiness. And the devotee said, well, everyone says there is. All the people say, and all the scholars say, and all the books say, and all the advertisements say that there's happiness here. Everyone says. And Prabhupada says, no, not everyone says. I don't say. And the devotee says, well, you're the only one. And, and Prabhupada said, yes, that is because I am the only intelligent man. So the intelligent person understands that the enticements of happiness in the material world, the enticements of impersonal liberation are not real happiness. They will not satisfy the spirit soul. And because of that is their second fault, that you will lose it. You will fall down from it. You'll fall down from the heavenly planets. You make $1 million, but when you die, as we say in English, you can't take it with you. Or there's a Yiddish expression that funeral shrouds do not have pockets, because you can't take it with you. You can't take your material wealth with you. You lose it. And if you go to the heavenly planets, you'll lose it. And if you gain eternal impersonal liberation, that you will also fall down from, because it cannot ultimately satisfy the spirit soul. That leaves the process of devotional service, which is so beautiful and so perfect. And easily, Prabhupada says in the purport, easily and simply, even for the beginner, can attain what those other methods cannot. Prabhupada gave a nice example. This is from a lecture. He said, it is just like I sometimes give the example of the blacksmith method and the goldsmith's method. The goldsmith, He has got a small hammer, tick, 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 and he's imitating how the goldsmith is tapping out the piece of gold jewelry. Tuck, 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 tuck. And the blacksmith has a big hammer. Done. Finish. So ours is the blacksmith method. We take the big hammer of Bhakti Yoga and finish everything. You see, we won't have to undergo so many tuk, 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 tuk. So this is such a brilliant and humorous example. If you've seen like the blacksmith, he has a huge, heavy hammer, and he takes it and he one smash with this, so heavy hammer that a weakling like me probably couldn't even lift it. Take this big hammer and boom, one smash, and the hot metal is flattened out. One hit. And the goldsmith hammer, the tiny little hammer, tick, 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 you tick, tick, tick all day, and you're only able to maybe move the metal a tiny little amount. So this is the process of devotional service. What karma and jnana cannot accomplish at all, devotional service accomplishes so easily. So bhakti yoga, it gives the real goal, it gives the actual goal, which will satisfy the spirit soul, because it is, what's the word I'm looking for? It's congruent with the nature of the jiva as spirit soul. Just like the fish cannot be satisfied out of water, the jiva can only be satisfied in his constitutional position of being a spiritual entity, part and parcel of Krishna, and only satisfied when it's in that full, complete relationship with Krishna. And as Prabhupada says in the purport, whereas the devotees enter into the kingdom of all pleasures, even from the beginning of their attempt. That means even the beginning, even at the stage of practice of sadhana bhakti, this perfection of the happiness and simplicity and perfection of devotional service is available. That's why in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it's described that pure devotional service, anya bilashita shunyam, anya bilashita shunyam jnana karma dhyanavritam anukulena krishnanu shilanam bhaktir uttamam. That pure devotional service, which is free from karma and jnana, which we've described, why they contaminate things, why they're useless. Anyabilashita shunyam, you're freed from other desires, you're freed from the practice of karma and jnana, and you're positively engaged in serving Krishna for Krishna's pleasure as given in the parampara system from guru to disciple. That's pure devotional service. And that pure devotional service is possible even in the sadhana stage, even in the practice stage, if done in that mood, even if the person isn't quote unquote a pure devotee, whatever that means. If a devotee, even in the beginning, is practicing and not motivating his devotional service by karma, by jnana, or contaminating it with these practices, that's pure devotional service. That's what Prabhupada means. This pleasure is available even from the beginning. And again, in Nectar of Devotion, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it's described that the pleasure of devotional service, even at the stage of sadhana bhakti, is so great that giving up heavenly planets, giving up material, impersonal liberation is as easy as anything. It's just given up, insignificant. And then when one advances to the stage of bhava bhakti, then the pleasure is so great that that pleasure of devotional service makes a mockery of the so-called pleasure of karma and jnana. And then at the stage of prema bhakti, that pleasure is so great and so thick and condensed and so all-encompassing that you cannot even perceive the existence of the so-called pleasure of karma and jnana. But again, even at the stage of sadhana in the beginning, the devotee has the strength to turn away from the pleasures of materialistic life and the temptations of impersonal liberation, because even in sadhana bhakti, that pleasure is so great. And this is another difference between devotional service and other methods, that even in the practice stage, it's the same thing as it is at the advanced stage, and the same thing as it is at the stage of perfection. The neophyte devotee is performing devotional service, and he continues performing devotional service, and he becomes an advanced devotee, and he continues performing the same devotional service, and he becomes a pure devotee, and he goes back to Akunta Dishnyam, described in today's verse, to the Vaikuntha planets. For those who are Gaudiya Vaishnavas, potentially Krishna's Goloka planet, and the same business of devotional service is going on. This is the example Prabhupada would always give of the green mango and the ripe mango. In the karma process, you do austerities, you give charity, you build wells, and then when you gain the fruits of it, you're done with that, and now you get to enjoy your senses. So your sadhana and your sadhya are two different things. Your practice and your result are two different things. Or what to speak of the jnanis, they aruya kritrena, they take great difficulty, great austerities, and meditating and controlling the senses. And what's the result? Something completely different, absorption into the Brahma Jyoti. Completely different thing. And then at that stage, all of the meditation and austerities is finished. Two different things. But in devotional service, from the very beginning to the very topmost level, it's the same thing, the same process. Yes, it gets sweeter, it gets more condensed, it gets more blissful, but the practice is the same. The idea is the same. There's no false duality. No, again, as Prabhupada says in the purport, the difference between the impersonalist mental speculators and the pure devotees of the Lord is that the former pass through a miserable understanding of the absolute truth at every stage. See, they pass through a miserable understanding to get their so-called bliss of Brahmananda, of entering into the Brahma Jyoti. Whereas the devotees enter into the kingdom of all pleasures, even from the beginning of their attempt. So this is the supremacy of devotional service, which is why we joined and are taking part in this ISKCON movement and doing all the things we do in devotional service. But this verse gets even more specific, not just the whole process of devotional service, but it's specifically focusing even more. The verse, "O Lord, persons who, because of their serious attitude," so that means serious attitude means you better be practicing nicely, "attain the stage of enlightened devotional service, achieve the complete meaning of renunciation and knowledge." So those persons, they attained, what is it? Vairagya Saram, which again, in the word for it, I love this translation, Prabhupada says, the entire purport of renunciation. The jnanis are supposed to be very renounced, but they're not renounced, actually. They're falsely renounced. But the devotee who understands Krishna, who worships Krishna, achieves the entire purport of renunciation. Again, achieve the complete meaning of renunciation and knowledge, and attain the Vaikuntha Loka in the spiritual sky simply by drinking the nectar of your topics. So this is speaking not just about devotional service, but about specifically the process of Shravanam, hearing the topics of Krishna. This is as devotional service, as bhakti yoga is the essence of all other spiritual or pseudo-spiritual processes. So Shravanam is the essence of bhakti yoga. And there's so many examples of this. Actually, we know Srila Rupa Goswami describes the different stages of devotional service. Ado Shraddha, Tata Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivrittistya. He describes all these things, but it's Ado Shraddha. In the very beginning is Shraddha. Now, literally, Shraddha means faith, But very, very often there's many, many instances where Prabhupada was speaking about the Shraddha, and he explains that Shraddha means let me hear. If someone has a little faith, then that means let me hear what these Hare Krishnas have to say. Let me hear what Krishna has to say. This is the beginning. This is Shraddha. Shraddha is not just a sentiment, but it means enough faith that let me hear what they have to say. This is the beginning, Ado Shraddha. So that first step, Shraddha, means hearing, hearing the topics of Krishna. And there's so many examples. This is a nice one. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was traveling, and he went to Varanasi, and he preached to and converted the Mayavadi sannyasis there. He spoke this nice verse. Bhagavan prapti hetu ye kari upai, Shravanadi bhakti Krishna praptir sahai. It is only by devotional service, Shravanadi, beginning with hearing, that one can approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the only means to approach him. So this is Mahaprabhu speaking to these impersonalists. Impersonalist means that they're already failed spiritualists, as we described. The impersonalists are all failed spiritualists. So from the very beginning, he's preaching to them, beginning with hearing, through hearing about Krishna. Then also another time in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, when Mahaprabhu was, when he was describing the Bhakti Lata Bij, the creeper of devotional service, how it sprouts and it comes out and the leaves come out and the branches and it grows up to the spiritual world, cracking through the covering of the material universe to the spiritual world, where it produces the flowers of bhava and the fruits of prema. And he describes there, let's see now. That this creeper of devotional service, any creeper, any plant you have, if you garden or if you grow something in a pot, you have to water it. And what is the watering process? Shravanadi jal. The creeper of devotion is watered with Shravanadi jal, with the water of devotional service, beginning with the process of hearing, simply hearing. There's also a nice conversation where Prabhupada said, you don't do anything else. You simply sit in the temple and you sit there. And when in the morning and the evening, there'll be class going on. And when that class is going on, you simply sit there and hear. You simply hear about Krishna. You don't do anything else. And he says, even if you don't understand, understanding is not very important. You simply sit and hear. So Prabhupada said about his own hearing from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he admitted, he said, often I didn't even understand what he was saying, but I was always desirous of hearing him. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta marked Srila Prabhupada, yes, I know him, he likes to hear. So just this desire that you want to hear, it's not enough to rubber stamp, I'm a devotee, I love Krishna. I don't know if this is applicable, but I have a friend, a devotee. This happened long ago. And she was telling me about her brother, who is also a devotee. And so I said, how do you get along well with your brother? And she said, I love him, but I don't like him. So sometimes we can have this like official idea. I love Krishna, but do we like Krishna? If we're in a room and I'm so guilty of this that I'm ashamed to even give this example because I'm so guilty of it, but it's a good example anyway, that if you walk into a room and on the table there's a Srimad Bhagavatam and some newspaper or mundane book, if you walk in, which are you going to pick up and read? Which am I going to pick up and read? So if we not just love Krishna officially, but if we like Krishna, if we actually have a taste for hearing about Krishna, then this is the perfection of our devotional service, that we want to hear about Krishna. We want to hear from Krishna, not just rubber stamp, I'm a devotee, but we actually like this. This is our pleasure. Just like what's that verse in the first canto? That those activities that do not promote a taste for hearing about the Lord are simply a useless waste of time. How does that verse start? Can someone refresh my memory? Anyone know it?
Not sure how it begins, but is it Shramayeva Kevalam?
Yes, that's right. The end of it. Shrama evahi kevalam. That activities that don't promote a taste for hearing about Krishna are a useless waste of time. Thank you. Yes. So this is the process of hearing. And again, another verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita described that Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoi. That devotional service, bhakti, love for Krishna, is already there in a dormant state within the heart of every living entity. So how does it come out? How do we wake it up? Shravanadi Shuddha Chitti Karye Udoy. Shravanadi, beginning with the process of hearing. So all of the process of devotional service, we have Navanga Bhakti given by Prahlad Maharaj, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. All of these processes are there, and they could be divided and subdivided into more and more processes. And each one of them, each one of those processes is perfect and glorious. Sri Vishnu Shravane Parikshit Abhavad Vyasaki Kirtane, that this is, I think, from Rupa Goswami's Padyavali, this verse that Parikshit became perfect just by Shravanam, just by hearing. And Vyasaki, Shukadev Goswami, became perfect just by speaking. Shravanam Kirtan, Vishu Smaranam, Prahlad Maharaj became perfect just by remembrance. Shravanam Kirtan, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Lakshmi Devi. Her perfection is simply by serving the lotus feet. And it goes on. Akrura is offering prayers. Hanuman is becoming a servant. Arjuna is becoming a friend. And Bali Maharaj is surrendering everything to the Lord. So any one of these activities of devotional service by itself is potent to give perfection in devotional service. And then there's the example, let's see now, the example of Ambarish Maharaj. Let's see if I could. Do I have the book here? Here it is, yes, 9th canto. Ambarish Maharaj. Savayamana Krishna Padara Vindayor Vachamsi Vaikunta Gunanu Varnane Karo Harer Mandira Marjanadishu Shrutin Chakrachuta Sakato Daye. It goes on. But Maharaj Ambarish, he engaged in all of the processes of devotional service. Always engaged his mind in meditating upon the lotus feet of Krishna, in words in describing the glories of the Lord, his hands in cleaning the Lord's temple, and his ears in hearing the words spoken by Krishna or about Krishna. He engaged his eyes in seeing the deity of Krishna, Krishna's temples, and Krishna's places like Mathura and Vrindavan. So it goes on. So either one process or all processes, and generally in devotion, we as devotees and aspiring devotees, we engage in all of the processes, but still amongst them, hearing has a special place. Again and again, we hear Shravanadi, beginning with hearing. And what's this process of hearing? So nicely described in today's verse, the word panena is used to describe this hearing process. Panena means literally to drink. So this analogy is very often used that we're drinking the process of Krishna Katha through our ears. This is our drink. This is our nourishment. This is how we take in nourishment in devotional service. Of course, through the mouth, we get nourishment by taking Krishna Prasad and by speaking Krishna Katha. But we mainly, through hearing, is how we become nourished. This is also described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is a favorite verse. Ye lila amrita vine kaya yadi anapane taba bhaktera durbal jivan yara eka bindu pane utpalita tanumane hase gaya karye nartan. Men becomes strong and stout by eating sufficient grains. But the devotee who simply eats ordinary grains, but does not taste the transcendental pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna, gradually become weak and falls down from the transcendental position. So we heard how the impersonalists and the karmis fall down from their position of imagined superiority. Now, if one sticks to devotional service, that fall down will never happen. But if, as it says here, that if you don't take the nourishment of devotional service by hearing topics of Krishna, then you will fall down. However, if one drinks but a drop of the nectar of Krishna's pastimes, his body and mind begin to bloom and he begins to laugh, sing, and dance. And here is the short purport. Prabhupada writes, all the devotees connected with the Krishna consciousness movement must read all of the books that have been translated, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and others. Otherwise, after some time, they will simply eat, sleep, and fall down from their position. Thus, they will miss the opportunity to attain an eternal, blissful life of transcendental pleasure. So how important is this? And just like in the verse says, that one can attain this eternal blissful life simply alone by hearing the topics of Krishna, by drinking, by nourishing ourselves with these topics of Krishna. This is our nourishment. This is our food. And very early, even in the very beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, we know Nigama Kalpa Taror Galitam Palam, that the Srimad Bhagavatam is the ripened fruit of the tree of Vedic knowledge, of the desire tree of Vedic knowledge. So it's a desire tree. Desire tree means you can get whatever you want from it. And the karmis want their material enjoyments, and the jnanis want their liberation, and the devotees want Krishna. So, and if you want that, you go not to the whole Vedas, but to the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is just about Krishna. Therefore, it's the ripened fruit. Sukha mukadamrita drava samyutam. That means that fruit, that ripened fruit, is so soft that it becomes like liquid nectar, very soft, just like a mango. When it's perfectly ripe, a mango, it's not exactly liquid like water, but it's so soft you don't even chew it, you just slurp it up, right? When you have a really beautiful, soft, perfectly ripe mango. So this is the Srimad Bhagavatam, the topics of Krishna, so soft and so sweet that it's like drinking nectar. Why? Pibita, again, pibita, this word pibita also means drink. Pibita Bhagavatam Rasamalayam. You are drinking, imbibing, soaking up, absorbing, nourishing yourself with this juice of the nectar of Krishna Katha. Rasam alayam. Alayam means even up to the point of liberation. Mohor aho rasika bhuvi bhavuka. And those who are actually rasika, those who are actually know how to relish bhuvi bhavuka, those who understand the mellows of devotional service will do this. Drink this nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is what we do. We drink this nectar. We imbibe this nectar of Krishna Katha. Again, all the processes of devotional service are important, but if we're not regularly hearing and chanting, there is a great danger of falling down. Therefore, Prabhupada wanted morning classes. He wanted us, if you ever have extra time, he told Satsvarup Maharaj, if you ever have time, read my books. So this has to be part of our devotional service. And if we don't have a taste for it yet, that's very sad, but we still do it because Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas told us to. This is the prayer of Raghunath Das Goswami, praising his guru, Srila Sanatana Goswami. Vairagya yog bhakti rasam prayatnar, apayayan mam anubipsamadam, kripambudir ya paraduka duki, sanatanas tam prabhum ashrayami. He says, vairagya yog bhakti rasam. Rasam again means the sweet nectar essence of devotional service, laced with renunciation. is so sweet, but apayamam anubipsam adam, I'm so fallen that I don't have a taste for drinking this nectar of the topics of devotional service. But Sanatan Goswami is so great and so merciful that although I was unwilling to drink this nectar, but because he's paraduka duki, because he understands and feels for and experiences the unhappiness of others as his own happiness, he forced me to drink this nectar of devotional service. Therefore, Sanatana Goswami is the most merciful person in the world. I was unwilling to drink the nectar of devotional service mixed with renunciation, but Sanatan Goswami, out of his causeless mercy, made me drink it, even though I was otherwise unable to do so. Therefore, he is an ocean of mercy. He is very compassionate to fallen souls like me, and thus it is my duty to offer my respectful obeisances unto his lotus feet. So this is Srila Prabhupada's position as well. He came here to somehow or other convince us, force us, trick us, tempt us, convince us to drink this nectar of Krishna Katha. That's what he came. He came here, and what did he do? He gave the nectar of Krishna Katha. He tried in Butler at the YMCA speaking to give them, and they were very nice in a formal way, but not willing to really drink the nectar of devotional service. So he came to New York City, he came to the Lower East Side, and gradually he gave us this wonderful process of devotional service, and specifically of hearing from him about devotional service. Let's see the time. Okay. One other nice verse, very nice verse. We know later in the Bhagavatam, in the 10th canto, and in the Krishna book, we hear how at the time of the solar eclipse, Krishna and all the Yadus went to Kurukshetra, and Krishna met with all the Yadus and the Brijavasis, and everyone was there. And after that, he went back to Hastinapur, and Yudhishthira and the Yadus, they were all very happy to have Krishna back and greet him again. And Krishna was greeting them, and Krishna said, "So, what's up? How are you all doing? I was away for so long. How are you doing? What's going on here?" And they replied, very amazing verse. This is from the 10th canto, chapter 83, text 3. They replied, "O Master, how can misfortune arise for those who have even once freely drunk the nectar coming from your lotus feet? This intoxicating liquor pours into the drinking cups of their ears, having flowed from the minds of great devotees through their mouths. It destroys the embodied soul's forgetfulness of the creator of their bodily existence." This is amazing. How can misfortune affect one who has engaged in this process of hearing about Krishna? And how do we hear about Krishna? We're drinking the nectar of Krishna's lotus feet. Krishna's lotus feet, Krishna is present in the hearts of his pure devotees. So his lotus feet are there. And those lotus feet then manifest from the heart of the pure devotees and then come out of the pure devotee's mouth in the form of beautiful Krishna Katha. And then that Krishna Katha is drunk by the ears, drunk through the ears of the other devotees. And thus Krishna's lotus feet go from the hearts of those pure devotees through their mouth, through our ears, and into our heart. So Krishna is present in our heart. And when Krishna is present, when we understand and see and worship Krishna within our heart, then there's no question of material suffering. So this is such a beautiful verse. And if we're in the present situation where we're not interested in hearing, maybe we don't have a taste for hearing, maybe if we go to that hypothetical scenario of walking into a room with a Bhagavatam and another book, maybe we don't always pick up the Bhagavatam, then what's the solution? What do we do? Going back to devotional service is the same process in the stage of sadhana and the same process at the stage of perfection. So the solution is to hear about Krishna, and gradually the taste will grow. Nivrittatar upagiyamanad, bhavoshadat chochamanobiramat. That hearing about Krishna, drinking the nectar of Krishna consciousness, is the proper medicine for those in conditioned life. Nivrittatar upagiyaman, bhavoshadat chochamanobiramat. Bhavoshadi means it's the medicine that will cure that those nivritta tarsher. Tarsher means is Trishna, which means thirst. That if you're thirsting for the wrong thing, for the materialistic thing, and if we want to drink the nectar of Krishna Katha, that means we want to become thirsty for hearing Krishna Katha. Then the solution is to hear Krishna Katha. Ka uttama shloka gunanuvadat puman virajeta vina pashugnat. This will work on anyone except the most condemned person, like the butcher or the killer, or the one like the impersonalist who is killing his own soul. But if you take the process, Krishna Katha is both the medicine and also the healthy state. It's the medicine for curing the contaminated state, and it's also the positive existence of the healthy state. And again, this is also said even more explicitly in Upadeshamrita, Syat Krishna Nama Charadadi Shitapya Vidya, that we're contaminated with the jaundice of avidya. Jaundice is a liver disorder where the whole body produces too much and can't eliminate bitter bile from the system. So I had jaundice many years ago in Vrindavan, and I wouldn't say everything tasted bitter, but everything tasted unpleasant. That I had no taste for eating anything. So when your body is so filled with this bitter bile, it affects your enjoyment of food, your nourishment, right? Just like we nourish Yeya Lila Amrita Pane, we nourish ourselves by Krishna Katha. But if we have this materialistic jaundice, then that means we have no taste for Krishna Katha. So what's the solution? The solution is to take Krishna Katha. And the example is given just like, I don't know if this works in real life, but in the Ayurvedic understanding, is that if you have jaundice and you have this liver dysfunction, one of the cures is to take misri, sugar candy, rock candy, and eat that. And because you have the jaundice, you have no taste for that sugar candy. But the sugar stimulates the liver to heal. And as the liver heals, then the bile in the blood diminishes, and gradually, that sugar starts getting its taste back. Actually, it's not, the sugar is not getting its taste back. We're getting back our ability to taste the sweetness of the sugar. So this is the process of devotional service. When you don't want to hear about Krishna in sadhana bhakti, we schedule ourselves to hear about Krishna, because this will reduce our materialistic contamination and allow us to spontaneously taste that Krishna Katha, the sweetness of it, and the result will be more hearing Krishna Katha, because in devotional service, the cure and the healthy state are the same things. Of course, there's all processes of devotional service, and we take all of them. And aside from hearing about Krishna Katha, we also hear the holy name. So this is not to diminish or to exclude or to supersede any of the other processes, but to remember that hearing about Krishna is central to all of them. One devotee very early in the movement, Shivananda Das, Shivananda was the one who went to Germany and started ISKCON in Germany practically single-handedly. And he wrote one letter to Srila Prabhupada saying, is it offensive to think of Krishna's pastimes while chanting the holy name? And Prabhupada wrote back, he said, no, it's not offensive. Not only is it not offensive, it's required. Because when we chant the holy name naturally, Krishna's pastimes and Krishna's beauty and Krishna's qualities will come to mind. And when we're serving the deity, naturally, we'll also chant Hare Krishna. We'll also hear about Krishna. We'll also remember Krishna's pastimes. When we're meditating on Krishna, when we're offering service at the lotus feet of Krishna, naturally, all these things will come to mind. And they'll come to mind if we fill up our mind with Krishna Katha. So, Hare Krishna, thank you very much, everybody, for your kind attention. If there's any questions or comments or discussion, we can address that now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. The
Krishna,
nectar
thank you.
you gave in the morning, it's very, very, very reliable. And we want to relish that in the morning. It's every morning Bhagavatam class. It is, I sit here. I want to listen to that, and then I don't know how much I am grasping. I don't know, but I still want to listen to that.
We're all works in progress. As long as we're moving up, it's all good.
That taste is very much, I relish it so much, Prabhu. And the way you're giving and all these things, it's very, very tasty. Thank you very much for nice katha. And then it's very good for Shravana. And then it's slowly, I don't know when I will improve, but I just want to listen every day.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Anything else, question or comment? I see, let me just very quickly in the comments, someone shared that verse that I couldn't remember. Dharmasvanustita punsam viswakshena katasuya not pariyad yadiratim shrama evi kevalam. That even you do your dharma, you do your swadharma very nicely, but if it doesn't give you a taste for hearing and chanting about Krishna, it's a useless waste of time. Thank you for sharing that verse that I forgot, which I should have known. Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry for interrupting. Someone was going to speak?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Acharya Prabhu. Thank you for such a wonderful class. I mean,
Hare Krishna.
the way you were speaking about the qualities of bhakti, especially compared to jnana and karma, it was just so clear. I mean, it was very fluid and clear. The illustrations you gave. I mean, this is really a good class to reflect on if we ever want to, speak on this subject. Preach about it or share it with others. It was just very, very clear. The continuity between the points. I really appreciated how that was all put together and the way you were speaking on it. The example you gave about the choices we have, and it's a reflection of our faith of when we are given the choice, the Srimad Bhagavatam or the newspaper, the cell phone ads, or the social media versus Shastra, and how our mind goes to that.
Right.
Sachinandana Maharaj gives a definition of faith as, where do we place our shelter? Where are our senses and mind? Where do they find satisfaction? Right? And he gives the example through the holy name is, when we chant the holy name, are we looking to taste Krishna Nam, or are we looking for an opportunity to basically let our minds wander and take shelter into conversations, dreams, fantasies? Where are we really taking shelter? And that is really the stage of our faith, is where we've taken that.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
Knowing that, and knowing how kind of fallen we are, when we take an evaluation of that and just say, what's wrong with me? Like, Krishna, you've given me, like, it all makes sense. Listening to your class, it all makes sense. It's like, how could we not be attracted to this? Everything we want,
Right.
Eternal, liberation from the hellish life on this planet and all these circumstances, and we get to live eternally with Krishna and play with Krishna and be free from all this. Everybody's joyful, but yet I'm still absorbed in these things which I know are going to
Right.
aren't what's good for me, but yet
Right.
I still can't resist.
Yeah, it's sad and it's understandable also. And it's sad, and the thing that can keep us from getting overly depressed or just sort of throwing our hands up in despair is that we know what the gradual process, we know what the process is for remedying that. So that's what can give us hope. And I also like what you said, what Sachinanda Maharaj said about faith. It reminds me of that verse, Shraddha Shabde Vishwaskahi Sujada Nishtai Krishna Bhakti Koili Sarva Karma Kritahai. And that also ties into what we're discussing, that faith means the firm conviction that devotional service and only devotional service is sufficient to accomplish everything, which goes to what we were speaking about and goes to the very definition of pure devotional service, which is anyabi lashita shunyam, devoid of all other things. So that's nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu, for a wonderful class.
Hare Krishna. Anything else? Question or comment?
I'm just saying the reason. There's one verse, Tesam Satata. That start Tesam.
Yuktanam Yogakshemam Vahamyam.
Yeah, the thing is that we're not being cleaned up. We didn't purify enough for us to taste the nectar of Krishna's holy name.
Right.
And it's just after so many life of time or pious activities and practice, and then we can get the taste of.
Yes. Our jaundice, my jaundice is very deep. And I've been suffering from it for more lifetimes than I can imagine. But the medicine is so powerful that as contaminated as I may be, or any of us may be, we can have hope of this process being successful, because the medicine is so powerful. And the doctor administering it, Srila Prabhupada, administering this Bhavoshadi, is also so expert that there's hope for us. This is also like in the stage of bhava. One of the symptoms is ashabandha, hope against hope. So hope against hope means I have no hope because my jaundice is so deep and my taste for Krishna Katha is so small. But I have hope because the medicine is so powerful and the physician, Srila Prabhupada and Krishna himself, are so expert that at the same time I can hope against hope.
And also the name about eagerness, other day, text 42, I think Prabhupada translated faith like eagerness to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, very often, many times, Prabhupada speaks about faith, Shraddha, like that he actually equates it with hearing. So that's another hint to us how important it is from the very beginning and then all the way to the highest liberated stages, hearing about Krishna. When Mother Yashoda is churning butter and singing her sort of impromptu songs about Krishna's pastimes and everyone's relishing, that's hearing also. That's hearing about Krishna. And in the beginning, we say, okay, time for Bhagavatam class, or okay, I made some time this afternoon to spend with Srila Prabhupada's books. Same process, same thing going on, and the appreciation will grow. Okay, 9 o'clock.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody, for your very kind attention. All glories to the Philadelphia devotees. I hope everyone's doing well. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. I hope you can come and give a Sunday Peace lecture soon.
I don't know when, but someday I'll make it back up there, but I couldn't say when.
I hope so. Your class was really, really, really good today. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, you're very kind.
Thank you.